What's up, guys? TheArtistVersion1 here, and welcome back to another edition of Stories No One Asked For, the podcast. If you guys don't know by now, about 4 years ago, I wrote a little book called, well, Stories No One Asked For. And upon numerous attempts of trying to write a follow up, I just couldn't focus. So I figured, why not take those stories that would be used for a second book and put them into a podcast? And that's what I do here on Stories No One Asked For, the podcast. And sometimes I bring on other people to tell their stories that you didn't ask for. And that's what we're going to do here tonight. But before I bring on my guests and everything, which, I mean, hell, if you thought last week's episode was, or last 2 weeks episode was traumatic, it's going to be really fun tonight. But before we do that, we got to give a great shout out to the people over at MoviesAreUSA.biz. If you don't know what MoviesAreUSA.biz is, it's a great website where you can head on over and find those hard to find TV shows and movies that are either never been released on Blu-ray or DVD or haven't been released on Blu-ray and DVD in quite a long time. I went to a Walmart today and they just had one rack of DVDs. It was a Walmart of all things, and it was just sad seeing that physical media is out there dying. And MoviesAreUSA.biz is a website trying to keep that alive. And if you head on over there and use my checkout code, that being artist ARTIST at checkout, you'll save 50% on your purchase. And if that wasn't enough for you, you're also going to get free first class shipping. And for the very few international listeners that we have, or I have, you're also going to get free first class international shipping as well. MoviesRUSA.biz has over 3,500 titles to choose from. And if for some reason you look through all 3,500 titles and you're like, hey, they don't have what I want, email him. He's more than happy to look up a title to see if he can put that on disc. Still use my checkout code artist at checkout. Save yourself a bunch of money and get your hands on physical media because, as I said, it's out there dying a slow, miserable death. And MoviesRUSA.biz is trying to keep it alive for us. So head on over to MoviesRUSA.biz today. Use that checkout code artist. Save yourself a whole lot of money and let them know that the artist sent you. All right. So today I brought on a guest. You guys asked for, well, some of you guys asked for. So she is here. So please welcome my good friend and hopefully future wife, Jamie.
Hello.
Yes. So recently, she doesn't want to talk about this, but I do got to mention it. Recently, Jamie went through a situation that actually gave me the idea to bring her back onto the podcast, but she was like, I'm not talking about that bullshit. So I was like, right on. So we can talk about other shit because your life is pretty traumatic.
Yes, it is.
Yes. So, but first, I want to mention a story that it might be embarrassing to you, but not for me. Um,
Here we go.
yeah, because like I forgot to bring this up in the last podcast you and I did together, which was like our rekindling, so to speak. But do you remember a time where you and I inadvertently had phone sex?
No.
The fucking crickets I just heard on the other end. It was like phone sex, just dead
Well,
fucking silence, man. Just
thinking,
uh,
have I ever done that with
well,
any?
not okay. Let me clean up the verbiage there a little bit. It wasn't exactly phone sex. Like there was a, this was during your time where I'm just like, hey, can you send me some motivation? You're like, hold on a second, sir. You not
Sure.
again, not in those words. Um, so like there was one night where like apparently I caught you during
Oh, God.
let's just say a moment of intimacy. Let's just say that.
Oh.
And so I apparently sent this message to you, and you're just like, well, it so happens that and you sent me these two videos, and these videos
Oh,
were
no.
stuff that legends were made of,
I'm so
and
scared.
oh god, good times, good times. Forgot to
Oh.
forgot to bring that up on the last one. I wanted to bring that up here. So
Yeah.
yeah, good. Just let's just say it was a good time. That's all I
My
wanted.
fucking life, man.
Yeah. But anyway, let's get more into let's get inside of Jamie here in more ways than one. Um so the first thing I wanted to for you to talk about here is that I've always noticed that it always says somewhere on your profile or somewhere that you were born in Boise, Idaho. And the
Yep.
one thing that I've always noticed is that, I never really hear like, well, in Idaho, I did, no, no. So what, why is there not really a lot of talk about Idaho?
Yeah, so I was born in Boise, and I don't know for sure how long I lived there. I want to say probably like 4 years.
Hmm.
So the 4 years of my life, obviously, I don't really remember Idaho so much and like the location, but
Hmm.
I do have like specific memories of things that happen because I feel like everyone has little glimpses of their childhood, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
But I don't really remember anything about Idaho. I don't even know what hospital I was born at. I'm sure it's somewhere in my fucking files. Um, and I
Or it could
haven't
be
been
on
back.
that thing they call a birth certificate.
Yeah, wherever that is. Shit, I don't
Uh,
know.
true.
But I haven't been back since. I have no idea what it's like.
Hmm.
And that's just where I started, I guess.
Now, now a fact that, probably, like the outside viewer probably doesn't know about you, probably, people close to you know, is that, you are, adopted.
Hmm.
Um, so were you adopted in Idaho and then moved, or like how did that process come about?
Well, it was a hell of a process. I can tell you
Mm-hmm.
that. So, to my knowledge, I was born in Boise, Idaho, and I know that my biological parents were really struggling with addiction and alcoholism and a lot of other things. And I got taken away at a very young age to like a foster care program.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, where they just kind of ship you off to a random family and you stay with them for a little bit so you're not with your parents. And then they kind of decide if they want to adopt you or not. And that was the process for me. So I want to say for about 4 years, I was just getting passed around like a joint to like that's
How
just the
many homes did you go to?
oh, probably at least 10
Damn.
all over the country. Like I remember Illinois, Nashville, Fresno, California, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Like I really just got bounced around.
Now, was it like you didn't get along with them and they didn't want you, or was it just like, they're okay, time to move on, or like what, like how come none of the 10 families wanted you?
Well, shit, that's depressing. um, I don't know, honestly. I don't really remember. Like I just have those little glimpses of events that happened,
Hmm.
but I know that I have two younger brothers who are my half brothers, same mom,
Hmm.
and also got put into foster care, but they got adopted right away, like with the second home they were passed to. And so I've always kind of wondered, like, well, how come I just wasn't lovable enough or good enough, you know?
Well,
And
I only ask it that way because, usually
I
like
don't
if
know. You're
somebody's
right.
not adopted, usually it's like, the child's raised in hell, and that's why, they're like, all right, fuck this, you can go somewhere else then.
Maybe I
You
was. Maybe I was bringing hell into every house I walked into.
Hmm.
But I turned out to be a, a good person, right? I don't know.
I think
Slightly
so.
fucked up, but a good
I
person.
mean, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, from a personal standpoint, I mean, like you have your issues, I have my issues too. I'm not gonna fucking sit here and
Yeah,
argue about it, but I mean, like, I mean, overall, I mean, I'm sitting here trying to date you, so I mean,
fair enough.
you know. So then you get adopted by your Iowa parents, we'll say. So,
Yep.
how did that come about?
This was probably the most confusing time in my life. I remember I was 7 years old. And once again, I'm on the road with a social worker who I don't fucking know. And I'm just in the back seat playing my Blues Clues toy, not knowing what's going on. I remember that toy so specifically.
Hmm.
I remember getting brought to this family, and I remember they had two houses. They had like a cabin a little bit south, and then like their house up in Iowa.
Yeah.
Well, the cabin was southern Iowa. Anyway, and I remember visiting there a lot and staying there for a couple weeks. And I have a very vivid memory of getting introduced to my next door neighbor who had a kid my age. And I remember being so scared that I just kind of hid behind a tree because I really hadn't had any like socialization, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I've never really interacted with kids. I was 7 years old and I always just felt kind of alone and didn't know how to do that. And then getting adopted, I remember very specifically being in this courthouse, not knowing what the hell is going on. I remember everyone telling me what's going on, but I'm just a kid. I don't know what's happening. And I remember being in this room, and towards the back row was some of the kids that I met in the neighborhood. And I remember my now mom and dad looking at me, and the judge saying, "Do you want these people to be your parents?" And I said, "I don't know." And they all kind of laughed. I'm like, "No, I don't know what's going on," right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember looking back, and my parents were like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yes." And then all of a sudden, I'm getting driven back to their house, and there's this whole bedroom made for me, and I have all these clothes, and it's really great, right, to walk into that. But I remember being so surreal and feeling extremely detached, just not having any.
Now, at that age, did you know what happened to your biological mom and or dad?
No,
No.
I did not know, because you have to think about it this way: when you're born into a family that's like barely making rent payments, is really into drugs and alcohol and not taking care of themselves, like that becomes your normal. Like you don't know anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see any of it as a problem, even though we were staying in like abandoned apartments or houses or staying on a street some days. I didn't think anything of it because I'm like, well, this is how it's always been. And so when I got adopted and I had like this whole bedroom and like nice sheets on the bed, I was so overwhelmed. I was scared. I was a very scared little kid, and it felt very uncomfortable because you're not used to that.
You're not used to nice things.
Yeah.
So you're living with the adopted parents for now. I know some of your you know life history, some of it and everything. So when I meet you and everything, have you always had like this? How do I put it? Have you always had this like traumatic lifestyle, or did it develop? You know, when apparently I don't want to use the term like when I show up, because that
Hmm.
just sounds weird. But like, did it develop like in that time frame, or like was there other shit before that?
I guess, do you mean more like, um
Because like, okay, for example, like when you and I, first started talking, there'd be nights when you'd be at, your mom and dad, I'll just say your mom and dad just for the purpose here.
yeah.
Your mom and dad's house, you'd be at home and you'd video call me and everything, and you'd be, oh, your mom did this, your mom did that, your mom did this, your mom did that, and how crazy she is, da 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 da. Was it like that before you met me, or did that just develop?
Oh no, that was like probably since a year after I got adopted.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And to kind of go into that, it's like when you have parents that have mental health issues, but
Hmm.
they acknowledge it and they're very dismissive and like, no, I don't. You do. And so while my parents did give me like a roof and shelter and food and they took care of me, when it comes to like mental health and emotional, I felt completely invalidated, and it really really affected everything in my life since I was like in middle school, high school, college. Now, like in every single aspect, it has directly impacted me in some sort of traumatic way.
Hmm. So would you say you have mommy issues?
I have mommy and daddy issues. I got all the fucking
Really?
issues.
Because
Okay.
I always remember you speaking very, I wouldn't say highly of your dad, but like I remember you having more issues with your mom than your dad.
And that's still true to this day.
Because
The
like I
thing,
remember you
yeah.
always like you I wouldn't say you spoke fondly of your dad, but like I remember like just for example, these are probably not verbatim words you said, but like like my mom's fucking nuts. She does it like, for the listeners at home. One time, me and Jamie were just driving around. This is when Jamie had her own place, and she'd be like, "Oh, do you want to see my house?" And I'm like, "Yeah," So we drove past her house one day, and like literally, it had to be 2 to 3 minutes after we drove past that place. Her
Mm-hmm.
mom is texting her like, "Why the hell did you just drive by?" and everything. Like what the fuck?
Yep.
Like, one, how did you even know that? And
Mm-hmm.
two, like, why is it such a big deal that we just drove by it and shit? Like, but like your dad was never really like, what the fuck are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like what the hell's your problem? Like I never really heard that side of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think there's still some truth to that to this day. Like, my dad's more the kind of guy who's like, he'll express his opinion and he'll, you know, say what he needs to say, but he always has love behind it. And my dad doesn't hold a grudge. He'll be upset, and then the next day he's like, it's a new day, So I always felt closer to my dad, and I still do. And don't get me wrong, I love them both dearly, but it is something about that generation and having unresolved trauma and mental illness, and then it just keeps running down the family line until someone's like, you know what, fuck this, we're not doing this anymore.
Mhm.
So
Now, like
yeah.
you moved out because you just finally
Oh my,
had it there, correct?
yeah, I moved out the second I could when I turned 18. I was like, I can't,
Yeah,
like,
'cause
I
that's when you
was
that's when you moved in with the one girl, right? Oh
uh,
god,
um
I can't remember her name, but like she's the one that gave me that chair.
you got a chair?
Yeah, remember that roommate gave me that chair, like she was getting rid of it and she gave it to me. God damn it, where was that fucking house at? Their apartment at? It was when you were in school for baking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I lived in two apartments at that time, but I think the one you're referring to is like the one where I was on the top floor and I had the balcony. Is that the one
No,
with
that
the
was the
vista
second
in?
place. That was the second place. The
Well, cool.
first place.
There. I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Well, you had a place before that where you had a roommate. Then you
Yeah.
had the second place that was on the top floor with the balcony and everything.
Yes.
Because
Yep.
like when we had that, when me and you hung out that night, your roommate like just moved out and shit.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but you had a place before that, and yeah. Um. So let's dive a little deeper here. You eventually at one time actually met back up with your birth mother. How did
Yeah.
that come about?
Oh my gosh. So that was when I was living at the first apartment. I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure. And I don't exactly remember how we were able to get in contact, but I know that when you turn 18, like you can pretty much do whatever you want. And if I remember correctly, I think that her boyfriend at the time found me on Facebook and sent me a message. And I was like, who the fuck is this?
Hmm.
And then kind of talking a bit, I'm like, oh, okay. Now, mind you, at this time, I'm very naive. I'm not emotionally mature in any way whatsoever. Like,
Hmm.
we all know that. Okay. And I was like, yeah, oh my gosh, I want to see my mom. Like, maybe she's changed. Maybe we can have a relationship. I want to see her. This will be great. Yay. Right. All this hope. And I remember that her boyfriend picked me up, which is, this whole thing is kind of sketchy now that I'm looking back, but whatever.
I was about to say it already sounds sketch with him being the one messaging you.
I
But
know.
all right.
But, 18-year-old me feared nothing, apparently. So he picked me up and then drove me to like a place like 40 minutes away, whatever, where she had lived at the time. And I remember just being so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to see my mom. This is so great. And I walked in and I saw her, and I was happy, but I could also see it like just in her face and in her body that she was not taking care of herself.
Hmm.
Like, she just looked so completely worn down, and it made me sad, but I wanted to connect with her. So we talked for a bit. She apologized for, pretty much abandoning me and choosing drugs over me, right? And I remember we sat down on her couch and she was showing me all these old photos she had of me. And I was like, I felt so detached. I'm like, that's not me. Like, this was never my life. Like, what is going on? And she had told me, she's like, I'm clean, I'm sober now, I'm getting my life back together. And I said, well, I'm really happy for you. You know, this is great. I'm here to support you. I'm not judgmental. I know how hard mental illness is because I was certainly struggling, right?
Yeah.
And I was very, very hopeful. And she's like, okay, well, I want to cook for you. So she cooked me a meal. And I remember it was some sort of, I don't know why this is relevant, but just hear me out.
No, that's what. No, keep going.
The first and only meal that my biological mom cooked for me, I think it was either chicken strips or chicken nuggets and like mashed potatoes. And I have that very clear image in my head. And I felt so good. On the ride home, I was like, wow, like I have a picture in my hand of what my life was actually like, even though it was shitty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm all hopeful. A couple weeks pass by, and she's on the news for, I'm not going to go into detail, but she got into a lot of trouble with the police.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here reading a news article, seeing my mom's mugshot in a paper, and I'm just like,
Damn.
okay. I didn't really know how to process it, and I didn't really process it. I was just like, okay, well, I'm alone. This is what it is. And that's how that whole experience went. Now, here's what's fucked up, okay? Is that she messaged me when she was able to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And trying to explain herself. And I'm like, look, I want you to get better. I am rooting for you. I am not judging you. I care for you deeply. But like, you got to be the one to want to fix your life. And then she made all these promises. And then this is the kicker. For the next like 2 years after that, she would send me a message maybe once every couple months asking for money. Now,
Mm.
the thing is, each time she messaged me, it would be like 3 paragraphs long saying, oh, I have this kind of cancer. I can't afford my medication. I have to pay it by the 15th, or I'm $20 short for rent. Like, I'm not fucking stupid. Okay. And it really hurt me because each time she said that she had a different type of cancer, I know what she wanted the money for. And I straight up told her, I said, look, if you want your life to be like this, that is okay. But I am not going to supply it or support it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm done. And I just blocked her and I just said, this isn't worth it. And that's kind of the end of that.
So, the biggest takeaway I have from that is,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that sucks. Don't get me wrong, but like, you were born in Idaho.
Yep.
You were passed around from like 10 different families in Illinois, California, da da da, all this stuff. What are the odds that both of y'all end up in Iowa?
I know. This is crazy. I was actually thinking about this too when I mentioned that because, oh gosh, I have an even crazier thing to tell you. You're not going to believe it. Do you remember when I lived with my really shitty ex?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the entire time that I lived in that house, my biological mother lived 2 doors down from me in like a halfway house.
Wow.
The entire time. It wasn't until I think I was heading to work or something one day and I walked down the stairs and then I see her on a bike. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And we had a little interaction and then I'm just like detached. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And so that always felt like some sort of sign from the universe. Not like I want to get connected to you, but it's like, what
Mm-hmm.
are the fucking odds? And I don't really know why she's in. I don't know if she's still in Iowa, but I to this day do not know why or how she ended up in the same state as I did.
Yeah, see, because that, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, it was nice that you had that moment with your mom, and it sucks what happened and everything. But like, after hearing that story, that was the biggest thing I had from it, was just like, how did both of y'all end up in the same state? Like,
It's
I mean, I
so
know there's a 1 in 50 chance of that happening, but still, the odds of both of y'all landing in the same state
the same
without seeing
state.
each other for like however many years is just, that's a pretty big probability, I think, in my opinion. I'm not a statistics
Same,
major, but
same city, same fucking street.
yeah. Well, I'm talking about like not even that. I'm talking about like when the boyfriend contacted you and she lived 40 minutes away. You're
And
still
you
in the
know,
same state, you know?
it is. And you know what's even more interesting is that when I did meet her that one time and we were sitting talking about photos,
Hmm.
I had asked her if she had any pictures of my biological dad. And she didn't have any, but she did say that he came to visit her at this apartment and that she did not give him her address and that he was looking for her. So the whole thing is fucking wild and spooky. Like, I cannot make this shit up. It is so bizarre.
Now, I've heard, now she's basically telling this story because I'm feeding her the question for the audience and everything. So I've heard this story before. So, but this is a story I haven't heard before, if there is one and anything, and that is your biological father.
Mm-hmm.
Where is he in all this?
So, no idea. I
Oh.
I don't even know his name. Um, there's two different names that I was told it could be. I I have not seen him since I was probably 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5.
Hmm.
The last memory that I have of him is we're at, okay, so when human services or whatever takes you away, you get to have like one final visit, right?
Hmm.
And I remember my last visit with my biological dad was either at a McDonald's or a Burger King. Really classy, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember, I just remember seeing his black hair. Um, and I think he gave me a hug. And that's the last that I had ever seen him. I have not been able, I've been curious because I want to know who he is. I want to know where he is. I have not been able to locate him. I don't
Uh,
want to develop a relation with him,
mm,
like a, you know what I mean? I don't want to get connected with him, but I want to know who he is and where he's at.
no chance of contacting mom and
Oh God, no.
no?
Everything she told me was a lie. Like, I have thyroid cancer, I have stomach cancer, I have breast cancer, I have ovarian cancer. It's like I can't trust anything,
Yeah, that's
which
fair. Okay.
really sucks when you go to the doctor and they ask for like your medical history and it's like I don't fucking know what.
No idea.
Yeah.
So, I guess the best way to transition to this is so we can say the home life, not so
Hmm.
well. So then we
Hmm.
transition to, more than likely when you have a bad home life, relationships are not going to be that easy.
Yeah.
So you were dating this guy, Nectarine. Well, I call him Nectarine because I can't say his fucking name.
His name is
Um,
Nati and he's Turkish.
that's it. You start dating him, and then like most of your relationships, I tend to see you go the same way, and that
Hmm.
is it starts off fucking rainbows and lollipops,
Yeah.
and then it fucking goes down. There's like a question in the middle, like fucking is he doing something or am I doing something wrong? And then it just fucking blows up. I've seen it with 3 of your relationships.
Hmm.
Um, well, the last one I didn't see the question in the. Well, no, I did see the question in the middle. I did see that. But with him, I saw that process. It was just like, oh my god, Will, we're fucking every night. I'm like, I know, I see it. I wish that was a joke. It's not. Um,
Um,
I still have the pictures. Um, but
Jesus. Well,
I have needs.
oh,
I mean, it's not like I look at them every night. They're like on a phone somewhere. It's like one of my old phones.
yeah, not
Um,
like framed anywhere.
not yet. But now I forgot my line of questioning. You fucked me up.
Yeah,
It's supposed to be a serious interview, damn
I
it.
have that effect on people. What can I
Yeah,
say?
you do.
Mhm.
Um, see, now I really forgot where I was going.
You're saying
Uh,
something about my relationship
yeah,
with
yeah,
him.
yeah. Relationship. Okay, yeah. So, do you think your bad home life? has any correlation to your relationships. There we go. We got back on it.
Not with, we'll call him Nectarine, because
Oh,
that relationship, I was in a relationship with a guy who was a foreign exchange student for a year, right?
I
So,
forgot about that. I always forget that part of that story.
no, you're good. So he was just here for the school year.
Hmm.
So we both knew that, like, hey, when you have to go back to Turkey, like, this is kind of over, right?
Hmm.
But it was still troublesome, right? Like, I was very immature and just not very emotionally intelligent. And I was really struggling with mental illness, like undiagnosed, unmedicated. Okay. But the
I
relationship,
wouldn't say you were emotionally
eh,
mature. I wouldn't say that. I just think
it was a
uh,
little.
I wouldn't say you're emotionally mature. Maybe made some wrong decisions here and there.
I was a bit reckless.
Yeah.
And
Like
still am.
like when he went to Washington, I think I wouldn't say it got under your skin, but I think you were, what's the word I'm looking for here? Paranoid,
Yeah.
you know? So I think it was like situations like that,
I don't,
that
well, I don't remember because that was like a long time ago, but I do
Mhm.
know that obviously with my past, abandonment issues is a thing, right? No doubt. Like, I feel like I got abandoned over and over and over and over again, right? And
Mhm.
so it's kind of impossible to not have that fear when you're going into like your first relationships. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's right for me to project my like issues into another person, but I didn't know any better. And it did get to me. Like anytime he was away, I was always like assuming the worst. It felt like I was
Yeah. Cuz
like
that
just
makes sense cuz
waiting
I
for something to go
remember
wrong.
Because that makes sense. Because I remember, again, I'm not just bringing this up just to bring it up, but it makes sense to what I'm about to say. But like, I remember you sent him a topless photo one time, and you were
Mhm.
just like, Will, he hasn't responded to it. He hasn't, like, you're freaking out that he hasn't responded to it. Like he
Yeah.
saw it, but he hadn't responded, and like that was like your major issue.
Hmm.
That like he saw it and didn't respond it. So I think that kind of correlates to your, I guess abandonment thing. Like, like it
I,
wasn't that he saw it. It was just like, fuck yeah. And that
yeah.
would have given you some kind of validation, but it was just like he saw it and it was just like, okay, I'm busy though, I don't have time for Jamie's titties right now. I got shit to do, you know?
Uh, but yeah, I get it. It's like
Yeah.
it's part of the abandonment, but also the insecurity that comes with it because you feel like everything you do is wrong and like the
Hmm.
who you are wrong and you're always wrong and you never do anything right. You're never
Hmm.
enough. And so then you seek out an excessive amount of validation from people to try to fill the void, but it doesn't fill the void. It just
AKA validation from Will. Anyway, of
yeah. I was like, well, I'm pretty, right?
course.
You know.
Now, okay, so you might kill me for bringing this up,
Oh
but
man,
yeah, yeah, don't hate me.
tips bottle.
So, now she doesn't want to go into detail about this, but her previous relationship that she was in, Jamie, um, ended the same way one of my both of my last relationships ended, and that was, unfortunately, Jamie was cheated on. Okay,
Hmm.
so but I hate to bring this up, but I just want to see if you feel any type of way about it. Um,
Yeah,
but
be fun.
there were different circumstances before you started dating, Nectarine here. You were actually seeing somebody. Do you feel any type of guilt about that, considering what previously happened in the last few weeks?
So, hold on. I'm trying to reflect back to that.
Gotcha.
I felt,
Albeit the guy was long distance. I
yeah,
believe he was Australia, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. So here's the deal about that. When I was in high school, I was on this dating app, and for some reason, I had it set to global instead of like the same fucking state.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was like, I don't know, maybe 15 or 16. I don't fucking know. And I met, or not met, but I matched with this guy from Australia, and we became really good friends, and like we fell in love with each other, and we stayed long distance
Mm-hmm.
for like 2.5 years, maybe 3. I don't even know, to be
Oh,
honest.
see, I didn't even know it was that long.
Oh, it was long.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
We truly loved each other, and we never actually met in person. And then when I went to college, I was so this guy and I have broken up multiple times. I just want to point out, but when I went to college and then I started getting interested in this other guy, I did feel guilt, but it felt more like me being reckless and being like, well, I don't care, like it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, when you find out that you deeply hurt somebody, you feel terrible. And I did feel terrible, and I reached out to him and I was honest and I apologized. I had reassured him that nothing super intimate had happened, but I was developing feelings for somebody. And, I wrote him a letter. I called him, I apologized, and I was honest. And then we eventually kind of made amends and became friends. It's like, okay, it's fine. We were both super young and immature. And he admitted some faults that he did too. So we ended it on like, it's okay. We're going to move on with our life. But I definitely felt guilt. And I think it would be concerning if I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
because like when you told me what happened, I was just like, yeah, it's kind of like the past coming back. You know what I mean? In a
Kind of.
different way. In a different way, because like I said, I know long distance is different than what happened in your situation, but
Well, sure. But it also doesn't excuse it
exactly.
all.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
not saying yeah.
But
So,
situation happened very recently was way more serious and much more. There's a lot to it. And anyway,
yeah.
it's very painful. But yeah.
Anyway, I found that guy and I beat him with a bar of soap, so it's okay. So don't worry.
Yep.
Um. Anyway, because it doesn't leave a bruise, so then he can't call the cops. Be like, he beat me. I'm like, where's the bruise? I don't know
Yep.
what he's talking.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyway, so and I believe if I'm not mistaken, you and Nectarine here, like you two just kind of faded out. It was never really like a breakup, really.
No, it was never really a breakup. I remember that, I was helping him pack because he had to go back to Turkey. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember driving with him to the airport and I was crying hysterically. And
Because
we
that time
tried,
you were emotionally unstable.
oh God, yeah.
Yeah,
And I remember like we tried long distance for maybe like a month. And
I
then
remember
he
that.
was getting really busy with work. And I, it wasn't working out. And we just kind of said, look, like, let's just be real here. Let's be honest with each other. This isn't going to work out. We both need to live our lives, but we still deeply care about each other. So then we just became friends. And I don't think we've talked in like a year and a half, which is fine. We're both living
Really,
our
you
life.
still kept in contact with him?
Yeah, occasionally, like maybe we send a happy birthday or hey, how you doing? Like a couple
Oh,
times a
okay.
year. But
I never knew that. I thought once you two, quote unquote, broke up, I thought that was it.
no, we just had an honest conversation and it just kind of moved on as friends, but it was super casual and it just kind of slowly faded away.
Oh, so you didn't just break up with him and block him like nothing, eh? Hmm.
I don't think so. I have
Like
terrible
like
memory.
you didn't block him like you did with other people in your life, eh?
No, I did not, Will. Um,
I wouldn't bring it up anybody specific, but
right. Fingers pointing at me, guys.
So, but that leads us to the other relationship here. Well, no, I don't want to name them, but you this time you actually move out of your place to move in with him, and that's where shit. That's where, I mean, let's call a spade here, Jamie.
Mhm.
You fucking had a downward spiral here,
Oh God, yeah. So
you know.
you
But
say,
before mention before you talk here, I just want to mention because like I saw significant changes in you for
mhm.
good and for worse here. By which I mean, because like for the listeners at home, there was a time where like, I mean, yeah, there was, you know, again, not to embarrass her, this is just shit that happened between me and Jamie, but there were times where like Jamie would send me a topless picture, be like, you think this would look good for him? And I'm like, right on, send it to him, looks good. Hey, good for me, good for him. Hey, sweet, awesome, you know. But um, you know, so like that was like a notion where I was just like, you know, that's probably a reason why I can't ever date this girl, because like if she's doing that when she's with somebody, I don't want her doing that with me and shit. You know what I mean? But when she got with the dude that she moved in with and everything, that shit stopped. Sucked for me, but in a way I could understand and everything. The downside to that was that like the mental anguish that like I had to watch you go through
Yeah.
was fucking was hard, and eventually led to, you know, our falling out there for a few years.
Yeah.
So, because at first it started out fine, you two were on paper fine, and on paper you two did not match, in my opinion.
Oh God, no.
You know, like me and my friend Jackie, like if you look at us on paper, you would not think we're fucking friends, but you know, we connect really well, and I guess that's like a situation with you two. On paper, it's like, oh, you two don't match, but apparently there was some kind of connection there. Um,
I don't know
so
where, but
yeah, so what? So I guess long story short, you know, what was the downfall? I guess.
well, first, I do want to hear like the changes that you noticed in me because it's always really interesting to
Well, that
hear.
was the main change I noticed. That like, because like, you know, I used to be like, hey Jamie, can you send
But
me some
like,
Can you send me some motivation? You're like, Will, I can't do that. I have a boyfriend now, and I'm like, okay. You
I
know, so
meant
like
more
you
like,
really changed in a way of just like, I can't be a whore anymore, Will. You know, so I'm just like, okay, you know, she changed. So like that's an aspect where I can be like, okay, you know what, maybe I could date Jamie. You know, she can control herself now, you know? And you know, and the downside was like watching that downward spiral. You go from like, you know, like you call, you know, before our falling out, you just like calling me fucking crying, like, or you coming over to the house, you know, and
mm,
just sitting in the driveway fucking crying, like, I don't want to go back home to him.
yeah,
You know, like shit like that. You know, there was like two different sides. Like, you know, like there, you change from a like a good aspect of just like, you know what, I'm not gonna be a fucking, you know, I'm not just gonna be sending pictures out to anybody because, you know, let's call a spade here, Jamie. You weren't just sending them to me, you know. Um,
eh,
you know, you weren't doing that shit anymore, which I could respect, you know. But also, you know, I could also see the other side of the coin where it was just, you know, you were not good, you know.
I was not good. I
Yeah,
barely
not
survived.
good. You know, and those are the changes that I mean that I was seeing, you
I
know.
know that. Oh God.
We went at one time we went from hanging out like every other day to like not at all.
Yeah.
The only time I got to see you is when you dropped by here, you know, to, I don't want to say what, but when you dropped by here to do something.
Yeah.
You know? That was the only time I got to see you and hang out with you and shit. And I'd always try and get you, you know, I mentioned this in the very first episode I did on you. But like, you know, I'm just like, hey, let's go out, let's go do something, let's go to the mall, let's do this, let's do that. And you're just like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Huh?
And kind of going back to your first question about like the downfall
Mm-hmm.
or spiral, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm living at the apartment that Will and I had like done the hookah at. He came over. I think we made a cake or something. I don't fucking know.
No, that was the first one we made the cheesecake at, and then the second one we
Okay.
did hookah, and you danced and everything, and I was happier than a pig in shit. You know,
Yeah, yeah. I was
you really tested my relationship with Emma. You know,
yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, I was living at that apartment and oh my god, I hate this man so much. We're just gonna call him Derek, because why
okay,
not?
we'll call him Derek.
So Derek and I had worked at the same place that Will and I worked at. Okay,
Ivy. Yeah,
so we all kind of knew each other, I guess you could say.
I
Now
didn't really
Derek,
know him to be honest, though. To be real, I knew
yeah,
of
but
him.
you could tell that he was a dick, right?
Not really. I knew of him.
Oh,
I
okay, okay,
didn't. The only person I knew in the kitchen was fucking Daniel, and that guy I hated.
yeah, yeah, I'm with you there.
You know.
Okay, anyway, we all worked together. Derek and I started talking, whatever. And well, I don't know, one thing led to another. We started hanging out. He'd come over to my apartment. And it felt like, now that I'm looking back and I can actually have somewhat of a fucking clear head,
Mm-hmm.
he was love bombing the fuck out of me. Like, making me feel so special, so important. He would bring me food. He spent all this time with me. He'd never be on his phone. He'd compliment me. And I'm over here, like, starving for genuine love and attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just got so in love with him. I was like, oh my gosh, he's so sweet. He's so wonderful. He's so thoughtful. And I think we really started hanging out like 2017, maybe like August. I don't know. And then we started dating in October, November or something. And then in March, he was buying a house.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I really hope that like he asks me to move in with him, right? Because it'll be a dream come true. If, no.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so he moved to the house and I moved with him. And the first fucking day that I lived with him, we had like, there was like a little built in booth and a kitchen or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he made me dinner and we sat down at a table like a normal fucking couple. That was the only night that ever happened. The
Damn.
following day, everything started to slowly go to shit. He became extremely ungrateful, very disrespectful, hurtful, cruel, um, act like I was invisible, act like I was nothing, looked right through me, just complete narcissistic behavior, like textbook narcissism. And me being the, you know, I don't know what you want to call it, sad, hurt, insecure little girl, I was like, I would be on my knees just begging for him to forgive me for shit I didn't even do. Like, it just started spiraling and spiraling, and my mental health got so bad. I became so suicidal. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to die every single day.
Yep.
And I, worried a lot of my friends because I made some pretty, I was not okay, and it was very obvious to
Mm-hmm.
everybody. I was miserable, and it was so obvious to everyone except for him. And anyway, I don't need to go into all the details, but it was just extremely, extremely emotionally abusive.
You don't need to go into the details, but for the podcast, if you like to, feel free.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I think that he had and still has a very low self esteem.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that comes with like, anytime you gently nudge somebody, they get super critical, like, oh, I just do everything wrong, or oh, okay, I'll just never talk again. Just all of that. And then I'd be like, no, that's not what I meant. I'm just trying to express myself. Like, please. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it was just, it was hell. And the times that, before I moved in with him, I want to hang out with my friends all the time.
Yeah.
Will and I would hang out all the time. We'd have great times together, going out to restaurants, drives, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And as the relationship progressed with Andrew, I stopped hanging out with my friends as much.
Wait, who's
Now,
Andrew?
oh shit, I meant Derek. Oh well,
Yeah,
fuck
Derek.
it.
Yeah, Derek. Okay.
Yeah, Derek. Okay, fuck it, I don't care. Anyway, I kind of stopped hanging out with my friends, and I still hung out with Scott.
Except for one, because
Okay,
you
let me
ditched me a
rephrase.
couple times. You ditched me a couple times for that one friend.
Okay, let me rephrase. I I did ditch Will multiple times when he would ask to hang out, and I
Mm-hmm.
would instead go hang out with like some of my friends. We'd go out drinking just because I wanted to drink myself to death, pretty much. Now, the main reason why I ditched Will
Because
is
I'm
because
white.
he's white. I couldn't fucking stand it. I was like, I am disgusted. It's because Derek hated him and hated that I talked to you, and he always told me like, don't listen to what he says, or he's crazy, whatever. And I could have just lied and said, hey, I'm going to hang out with the girls, but really hang out with you. And there were some days I just wasn't up to it. But the main reason why is because of him.
You
And
never fucking told me this.
that surprises me. I know I didn't tell you while I was with him because I was just scared.
You didn't tell us. You didn't tell me this when, we had our little chat at Firehouse, and you never told me. This is the first I'm hearing of this.
No, I mentioned it when we did the first podcast
The
episode.
fuck you did?
Yeah, listen back. I said something along the lines of like, I said he was part of the reason why I blocked you because he's like, just block him.
No, you said you blocked me because you felt that's what you thought I wanted.
Well, that's what I thought you wanted, but I was in the room with him at the time, and he was encouraging me to.
I'm listening to that shit tonight because I don't remember you bringing that up. As you can tell, I have a pretty good memory when it comes to shit.
You have a great memory. I'm not sure if I exactly said it like that in the first episode, but I know for sure that I mentioned that he was part of the reason why I had blocked you and how the conversation went the way it did because I was speaking out loud what was happening because we were both in the same room.
No, horse shit. I don't believe that.
Okay,
I mean, I don't believe that you said that. I believe that he probably said that, but I don't believe that you brought it up because this is the first. I'm sitting here like, what? Like, that's why?
I'm pretty sure I did, but if I didn't, I apologize. But that is how part of it went down. And the whole.
I'm not mad. I'm just hurt.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
No, I'm hurt, not disappointed.
Why?
I'm hurt.
You hurt?
We lost like 2 years of hanging out time because of this.
Well,
we
yeah.
could have been on our second kid by now.
Oh my God! Please, no kids. No. No.
Hey, I don't want any more kids either.
Dogs only. Dogs only, right, Luna? Nice sweet girl.
Luna's her dog, by the way, people.
Oh yes, I should clarify.
Yeah.
She is my dog.
Yeah, because like if you did say that, then I don't remember. But to me, this is news to me. Like I had no idea of this.
Well, I don't know for sure. I guess we'll have to find out. But I do know that I just really shut down, and I just didn't feel the need to explain or had the energy to explain really to anyone. I was just drinking to fucking make it tolerable to when I came home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
because
really
like towards the end of that relationship, it was. I know you were just like fuck him, I'm done and shit like that, and then. Like once I finally just threw my cards on the table, I was like, I'm tired of this fucking like, hey, let's go hang out. And you're like, no, I'm good. I just want to stay home. And then you're out drinking with other friends and shit. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm tired of this bullshit. And then that's when we had our falling out because you're just like, oh, let's just talk online. I don't want to hang out. I was like, okay, fuck you. I was done. And you can ask our friend, our mutual friend, if you still talk to her. I don't know if you do. You can ask our mutual friend Haley. I was upset about it.
I don't know if I haven't talked to her in years, but
because I messaged her and I was like, this is some fucking shit, man. Like I was distraught about it and shit. Because it'd been one thing if like after that argument I was like, fuck this, and I blocked you. But like the fact that you did it to me is what I was just like, are you fucking kidding? Like what? So.
What I remember, one thing I do remember is that I didn't want to. Like there's a part I didn't want to because I really valued you as a friend, and I really can't explain what was going on. This was like I was in such a fucked state of mind. Again, I'm not trying to excuse my actions, but like I was really fucked up. Okay.
Yeah.
And another part too is I remember you saying like, "Stop typing. We are done." And so in my head, I'm like, okay, he doesn't want me to respond. He says that we're done. So doesn't that mean just to block? Like that's how my mind was kind of running.
Yeah.
And then
because you ended it with like, hey, let's just talk online. Let's not hang out and shit. And then I was just like, okay. And then you were still typing. I was like, what's there to say after that? So that's why I was like, stop typing. We're done.
Yeah, I don't.
Because the little dots came up that you were typing. So I was just like, there is nothing else to say after that, man.
Like, there's
Your
nothing else to
next
say.
sentence, could have been like, "Hey, I'm sorry. Let me suck your cock," and I would not have cared because like I was so fucking mad, you
Yeah.
know. So anyway, we got off track there.
We
So,
did, yeah.
uh, speaking of your mental health, during that time, you thought, I say we, like, fucking, we're taking this journey together, but you thought you were diagnosed, what is it, borderline, schizophrenic, some other
Uh,
bullshit words?
well, I didn't really start seeing a psychiatrist as an adult until like I think 2018.
Mm-hmm.
I remember at that appointment, she's like, "Okay, yeah, you got some PTSD, you have borderline personality disorder, you have panic disorder, you have depression, you have anxiety." I'm like, "All right, shit, just fucking stamp me up, right?" Um, and then, as time went on, I went to see a therapist, and they're like, "No, I think you have bipolar," or "No, I think you're schizophrenic," or blah blah blah. And I'm just like, I'm just in the purple book somewhere. Like, I don't fucking know what to say. And yeah, sorry, I don't know where I was going with that thought, but I went through a lot of like, "Oh no, you have this. Oh, you have this." And I was like, "Okay, well, does it really fucking matter?" And then, eventually it got to the point where it's like, "Okay, I'll try medication," right? And it helped. And then I would go through a hard time, and then I'd be like, "Okay, screw the meds. I don't care. I want to be reckless." And then, of course, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
But
So you were never really officially diagnosed with that borderline or whatever.
no, that is my primary diagnosis to this day.
Oh, borderline schizophrenia,
No, it's borderline personality disorder.
borderline personality disorder. But at
Yeah.
one time, you thought it was schizophrenia, right?
Yeah. And
That's what
that
it
was
was. Okay.
because I was having like such DPDR, which is like a depersonalization, devialization, and I was seeing things, but that was from like being so traumatized that I was detaching myself from reality, and that's a whole nother story. But
Now, other than the previous relationship that you just got out of, was there any other relationships after Derek there?
no, just
No?
maybe like a couple flings,
Hmm.
but nothing
Nothing
significant.
serious?
No, nothing where it's like, okay, we're in a relationship. It's
Hmm.
more just like, hey, I need affection. Okay, cool, bye. Mutual on both ends, I should add.
There.
A situationship, I guess, is what people are calling it now. I don't fucking know. But no,
Because
after
I think like once we got together and talked at Firehouse, like you just got back from, I guess, a quote unquote mental breakdown in Chicago. What was that
oh
about?
god. Well, you are in for a story. I think I've already told Will, but I
Yep.
will tell everyone else. Um, this was back in September, and like I said, I have BPD. I am. I have manic episodes. Okay, and I had a hell of a one. I don't really remember what triggered it. It was something with the guy that I was with did something that really hurt me, and I was really pissed off with how my job was going, and just everything was going to shit. Okay, and I, to this day, have a bad habit of doing something reckless, to feel something, right? And so I remember I was having such a shitty morning, and I was just like, fuck this shit. I hate everything. And I was laying down in bed.
So a
And then I'm
normal
like,
day.
yeah, pretty much. um, no, it's a little better now, but still. I was laying in bed, and I was like, let me just look at like fancy hotels, right? Like, I just want to like pretend, fantasize a little bit, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking at these hotels in Chicago, and I found this one. I'm not going to say the name of it, but it was a very fancy one downtown. And I was like, $370 a night. Well, screw it. Let's live it up. Okay. That's how my mind works when I'm manic and unmedicated. So I spontaneously just booked it. And I was like, well, shit, I actually booked this and I can't cancel. Otherwise, I'm going to get charged. So it looks like I'm going to Chicago. Right. And then I was like, shit, I have my dog with me. So I just grabbed a bag. I got my phone charger, my wallet, a couple items of clothing, and like deodorant, and I just started driving with like no plan whatsoever. And I'm going to try not to go into too much detail, but I make
No,
it to
that's what the
Chicago.
podcast is about. I go into the most minuscule detail of shit. So do it.
Okay, I just don't want to bore people to death. God. So I'm driving to Chicago. It's like a 4.5 hour drive. And I remember like once I started driving like downtown Chicago, I started having a panic attack because the traffic it's not great there, okay? And I was kind of freaking out, and I had to park in like this underground area type thing, and I just remember being so anxious trying to find this hotel because everything's so fancy and complicated there. And so I have Luna with me. She's going crazy, howling. She's a beagle. And I finally make it to the hotel, and I'm like carrying my bag and carrying my dog. I'm like struggling, almost falling on the floor. And then like this lady comes over to me and she's like, "Hey, do you need help?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I need some fucking help." And this guy who was like the concierge came over, he sat me down, kind of helped me get through the panic attack. He was a very kind guy. Um, and I just told him, I'm like, dude, like I am struggling, like I am not doing okay. And he ended up, okay, so I had originally booked a king bed, right? The cheapest room.
Hmm.
And he's like, well, you deserve to have a good night. And I was like, okay, shit, like, what's up? And he's like, I'm going to upgrade you to the ambassador suite.
You're like, God damn it, I have to blow this guy, don't I?
Oh, oh my gosh. So I was like, are you sure? That's so sweet. Like, thank you so much. And he's like, of course. Now, here's the problem. When I got the little card with my room number, I realized that I had access to the VIP lounge and I had unlimited alcohol for free. Unlimited free alcohol.
And that's where they went wrong.
And that's where they went wrong. Okay. So I get up to my hotel room. I have this gorgeous room in the middle of downtown, like the most spectacular view. I have my own balcony. I have like this very, very deep, fancy tub, a wall shower, a toilet with a fucking bidet in it. Like that was wild. Um, I'm getting lost, sorry. But anyway, wonderful time. And I had packed a couple dresses with me, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna look cute. I'm gonna do my makeup. I'm gonna enjoy myself, right? And so
Hmm.
I did a bit of exploring. Now, mind you, this hotel was like filled with people who were there for like a medical conference. So we're talking like people who have their shit together. And I'm over here like a mentally unstable hot chick, just trying her best. So I make it down to the VIP lounge, and there's a couple people in there, whatever. And, this lady starts pouring me glasses of wine. I think I probably had like 10 glasses of wine because every time I finished, she just poured it back up to the rim, to the rim. And there's a beautiful balcony, and this guy approached me. We started talking, and he was just a really nice guy. And he like did a photo shoot for me, like in a respectful way, right? I just want to add that. And I was just feeling very reckless, and I ended up doing something very foolish. And I walked downtown Chicago at night by myself in a cute dress, intoxicated, because I was in a state of mind like, oh, I'm walking on air. Nothing can stop me. The world is mine. I'm so powerful and beautiful, when you feel like there's no consequences. And fortunately, nothing bad happened to me. And I made my way back to the hotel, and I just was very, very drunk and just talking with people at the restaurant and the bar and just having a good time. Right. And that's really the majority of the story. Like the following day, I went out and explored like downtown and tried out some new restaurants by myself and took Luna to the park and everything. But it's just, I had no plan whatsoever. And I was just like, fuck it, let's live it up. I'll do whatever. Like, I don't care. And then that put me in a serious financial hole.
Like
But
how big of a hole?
like, oh, $2,000.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah. Yeah. I really lived it up. And the thing is, like, despite the financial hole that it put me in, I do not regret it because one, I know that it wasn't smart and I wouldn't do that again because I want to be safe and careful and everything. But I got this feeling there that I've never had before. And it's like, wow, like I actually made this happen. And it might not seem like a big deal to people, but it's like I got myself up. I drove there. I checked in. I did this. It's like it just felt good and surreal.
Mm-hmm.
And I reflect on it a lot, even though it was reckless and foolish. It's like it was also amazing, you
Like a
know?
personal growth moment.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely was. This is really surprising to me, but when I woke up in the morning, I was not hungover, which is just the universe watching over me, I guess. But I sat down on the balcony and I actually like was speaking out loud to myself and I recorded it on my phone, like a Snapchat video of just like talking about how I felt in that moment and what I want for my future and all this. And it was a really good like learn about myself moment. Um, yeah, just like kind of what you said, personal growth for sure.
Have you gotten out of that hole now?
Uh, I'll take donations.
Well, there you
Um,
go. So will
yeah,
I.
yeah, I know. Yes, but also I've been hit with like ridiculous utility bills I don't even want to get into. So it's like I did get out of that hole, but then I got right back in with some other stuff. As life does.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, it kind of came full circle then. So you went through all that bullshit, then you had even though it put you $2,000 in the hole, you got some good out of it.
And what's even more ridiculous is that 2 months prior to that trip, I went on a different spontaneous trip to Michigan. And
Oh, see, you didn't tell me that one.
oh, I didn't tell you about that?
Oh,
Okay, well, shit, really quick.
here we
Um,
go.
I woke up one morning and I was just like, I'm fucking sick of this. Like, you just look at your house and you're like, I'm sick of it. I need something else. And I looked on Airbnb because I had watched a TikTok about it recently, just like Airbnb. So I was like, well, let me see what's out there, right?
Hmm.
And I located this area called like the Grand Rapids area of Michigan. And I was like, this looks like a cool town. Maybe I should just like drive there, haha, as a joke. And then I found an Airbnb that was really cute and really affordable. And I was like, well, shit, I guess I'm going to Michigan. And I had convinced my family that I was going to somewhere in Iowa because they would kill me if they knew what I was doing.
Why
So,
would they be mad if you went to Michigan?
because I don't know how to explain it. It's just how my parents are, going back
Okay.
whole like they just freak out about the most stupid stuff. Like when we drove by their house.
Yeah.
It's like everything's explosive. Anyway, so they were kind enough to watch Luna. So I went to Michigan. It was a 6-hour drive, and I remember pulling up to this lady's house because that's where I stayed at, and it was beautiful, like a beautiful garden type scenery. And I felt so surreal. I just tried on a bunch of dresses. Again, I was feeling manic, okay, and I was unmedicated. And I remember I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna drive downtown and see what happens because why not? And it's kind of like a mini Chicago. Um, and I just was walking downtown and I remember feeling so like fascinated with the most simple shit. Like, oh my gosh, look at these buildings, look how the lights are, look at all these people sitting outside. Oh, it's so magical. This is like the mania kicking in, right? And I just explored and walked on my own. I wasn't using alcohol at this time. Like I was just being sober and truly enjoying the experience. And I had a great time downtown. I actually I recorded some Snapchat videos of me walking downtown and just saying out loud how in love I am with the city and how good I feel. It's like I wanted to have a video to look back on to remember. And I did that. And then I remember the following day, I drove to Grand Haven, which is about 40 minutes away. And it's on like Lake Michigan. And so it was a beach town. And I went around shopping again with money I didn't have. And
Wow.
yeah, yeah, I walked to the beach. It was a 45-minute walk. And I sat in the sand and I journaled. Like this was a really like good self-discovery trip. And I journaled for like hours. I walked the pier. I saw like this fountain show by the lake. It was beautiful and amazing. I had the best spaghetti of my life. Fuck, that was so good. And then the following day, I drove back to my apartment, and that was that. And then, boom, 2 months later, I'm doing that to a different city. And it's wild. I don't regret it, though. I don't regret it.
No regrets.
No regrets. Just maybe some adjustments I'll make next time.
I know. I tried talking her into going to Chicago again because I never been, but she doesn't want to go with me.
But I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
I
The
can't
hope
believe
is still alive,
that's
people.
Chicago.
The
That's
hope is
mind
still
blowing.
alive.
I
The way
everyone.
you said it, you're just like, well, Will, I'm expensive. It was $75 just for my dinner. I was like, that's your way of saying I don't want to go.
It is expensive. I'm just being honest.
I don't give a shit.
All right, you got
You're
$1,000.
hot enough.
Yeah, I am pretty cute.
Yes, indeed.
So who knows where I'll end up next? But I am having that itch to travel again. That's been really, really hard to resist because I have. This is too much information for you guys, but fuck it. I've had to be off of my antidepressant because I have a type of sleep study scheduled and I have to be off the medication. So that itch for like impulsive and recklessness is very strong, but I am better at recognizing it and
So
saying,
just out of curiosity, so
yeah,
tomorrow, for instance, if tomorrow you didn't have to work or anything like that, and you could just drive somewhere within reason. So I mean, obviously you're not going to drive to California, but like if you could drive somewhere within reason, where would you want to drive?
oh, that's a good question. I'd probably say either Chicago again or Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
Yeah, or probably one of those two. It seems like the last year I've really either wanted to go to bigger cities or towns that have a really nice beach. And obviously, being in the Midwest, your options are kind of limited.
Yeah,
But I'd say Chicago or Minneapolis.
yeah, because I love the beaches of Chicago.
The beaches are great there.
Oh yeah, love them.
Yeah, totally.
Well, they do have a lake, so I mean,
Ew. They
I mean,
have, when I went there in September, they had a dog beach that I took Luna to, and she got to dip her paws in the water for the first time. That was really sweet.
did she like it?
No.
Oh, that was really cute. Did she like it? Hell no. Oh.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I was like, come on, Luna, you got to at least try. And then she dipped her paws in, and she's like, nope. And I'm like, all right, you tried. I'm not going to force you.
There you go.
But she does not like getting her paws wet at all.
So if anybody would like to donate to me and Jamie's trip to Chicago, we need a suite. We need what else do we need?
Bottles of Sauvignon Blanc.
You're supposed to be quitting drinking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
A
but
lot,
I'm only gonna be pretty to you if you're drunk. So yeah, might want to double that.
oh, jeez.
I'm no prize, man.
Have you seen Derek?
Have I seen who?
Derek?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's why I always thought I was like, man, I could have a chance at this.
And I
Yeah.
really cringe at my past. Like, it's kind of funny listening back to the stories, but also I'm like, damn, Jamie, like, really? You, okay. Yeah, I don't know, whatever. It's part of what makes us who we are, so.
That's why, like, I told people on, my listeners know about this, and you kind of know about it too. But like, I know Jamie just got out of that relationship and everything, so I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna ask her out, and I was just like, you know what, she just got out of that relationship. That's probably not a good move. So at one, but like it kept bothering me. Like it was like one of those things in your brain that just keeps bothering you. It was like just do it. If she says no, she says no. Fuck it. Then you can just say you did it. And then at one point, like during the day, one time, I actually typed into the chat box. I was just like, "Hey, are you busy?" Like I was gonna ask you, and I was just like, "No, fuck, leave it alone," you know. And like it was like a Wednesday, and like I was like, I get off at 2 Saturday. I'm in town because Jamie lives around the Iowa City area. For people who don't know, um, people know I live in work in Iowa City, so I was just like, I could ask her for Saturday and shit. And I was like, fuck it. I'm not going to bother her. She just got out of that relationship and shit, whatever. Then Saturday came and it was just like Jamie's birthday's today. And I was just like, well, if that ain't fucking the universe saying go for it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just like, nope, I'm good. You're like, fuck off, tubby tits. And I was like, oh, okay.
No. What how I feel about it is that right now I cannot explain how painful this breakup has been. It has been the worst pain of my life. And I'm at the point where I truly would rather get run over by a car than to ever, ever catch any type of feeling for another human being ever again. Like that's how I'm feeling right now. And I'm okay with that because I just went through some shit, Like some really tough shit. And I think it's okay for me to be like, you know what? No, Jamie. Like, just telling, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm just like, you get to a point where it's like, I literally cannot even handle the thought of going on a date with another human being right now because I am so physically sick from my last one. If that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Oh, it's okay. I'm wearing you down. Even my listeners and viewers, they're just like you're wearing her down. It's funny because one of the listen, his name is Cowabunga motherfucker. That's his name.
Cowabunga,
AKA
motherfucker.
yeah,
I like
AKA
it.
Blake. I finally had to ask him his name. I was like, I cannot call you fucking um Cowabunga anymore. I need a name. He was like, oh, well, I like Cowabunga, but you can call me Blake. So I was talking about this on one of the lives, and he was just like, "It's okay, you're wearing her down." I was just like, "That's what I told her." I was like, "I'm wearing you down, Mama." She was like, "What'd you say?" I was like, "Nothing." Never mind.
Yeah. I was like, I'm sorry, what? You're like, nothing. I'm
Yeah,
oh man, shit.
so that's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
and also Jason, he's always just like, "You two get together yet?" I'm like, "No, I'm working on it."
Gosh.
What can I say? I know what I want.
Yeah, that's more than half the men out there. I feel like so. Cheers
Hey,
to you.
hey. I'm the only one that can put up with your bullshit, and you know it.
I can't even put up with my bullshit, man. I stress myself out, and the thing is, I'm stuck with me for the rest of my life. It's pretty
I'm okay
fucking
with it.
wild, but fuck it. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think that's all of Jamie's traumatic shit that she wants to go through here tonight. So
Thank you
yeah,
for the session.
yeah, no problem. So hopefully you guys enjoyed Jamie's stories that you didn't ask for there, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this week's episode of the podcast. Next week I should have something. I don't know what if you guys listen to this. So yeah, so for me and Jamie, I'm the Artist Version 1, and until next week, be breezy.